Hello again, and welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Rural Report. I am your World 2IC, and it looks like one of our little mini series has taken off. So, good news. So, I did the little mini series based off of tools for SHTF, and a lot of you seem to have really liked it. I haven't really had any negative feedback. There's been quite a few people that have made comments and emailed me and contacted me in various forms, and not only provided me with praise that it was really insightful and good and helpful and whatnot. A lot of people went through and started adding to the list, which was very impressive. Thank you, hats off to you for participating and growing. Now, granted, yes, I'm not trying to make the most absolute list. I try and get the ball rolling. I want you to think, and then you can go through and make the list your own. Take out the things that I said that you're not going to use, add in the things that you're going to use. Share that list out, because what's on your list may help somebody else. So, the next ones, so in this one and probably the next video or two, are going to be inspired from you guys, from viewers. And so we're going to do at least two more, if not three more, and then we'll see what happens after that. But in this one, we are going to talk about hygiene for SHTF. Now, where does this kind of fit in? Well, you're going to need tools and supplies to keep hygiene in an SHTF situation. Now, granted, yes, we're going to talk about long-term SHTF. And the reason why this is very important to talk about is, besides the unpleasant smells and the uncomfortable feeling of being icky and gross and all that fun stuff, is going to be things like how it affects your immunity and how it causes sicknesses and diseases and lowers morale and all sorts of other things that can be something that is detrimental to your health, as well as actually being lethal. So we're going to get into this now. This one's probably going to be a little short one. There's going to be a lot of kind of redundancies in this one, but stick with me. It's important, because the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about off the body hygiene, which is going to be laundry. Now, you can go all the way back, and the very first thing that a lot of them did is they went to the creek and they used a rock. And so they got the material wet, and then they would, do what they could to agitate it in the water, and then they would smash it or throw it against the rock. That sudden impact would be an agitation process and loosen up a lot of things that was on there. And then they would give it another rinse and whatnot. And so, that is always an option, because you don't need anything. Next is going to be the old fashioned washboard. Now, I would love to have one. I am kind of looking for one every time that I find one at a flea market or whatever. It's either a really cheap replica that's going to fall apart or whatnot, or it's badly damaged and in serious need of restoration, which I should probably just make one of my own. But you can either buy one or make one. I would stay away from the new aged ones. I see a lot of really cheap ones that are plastic. They don't look very well. But again, something's better than nothing. At least it would help in some sort of form or fashion. But I'm sure most of you are aware of the old school washboard. Next is going to be a way that you can either buy, again, a consumer product, or you can do it yourself, is the off-grid washing machine. Now, there's plenty of videos out there of the 5-gallon bucket method, where you put it in there and you use something, like a toilet plunger or whatever, to do your agitation process. And then you can do another bucket so you can have a rinse process and things like that. There's a bunch of really good ideas out there and whatnot that you can either buy or make yourself for pretty cheap. Uh, and maybe we'll do a video on here, but for right now, the YouTube has been inundated with those styles, so we'll hold off for the time being. And then, in order to do laundry the best you can, you're going to need some sort of a detergent. I would, if you are going to stock up on it, I would go after the powder instead of the liquid. Just because, here's my thought process: you get a hole in the liquid and you have a chance of not only losing it but ruining whatever it drips onto. Where the powder, you would have a much better chance to be able to store and things like that. Again, that's just a opinion of mine. Now you can either stock up and buy commercially detergent stuff, or you can make your own. There's plenty of stuff. There's a ton of different lists that you can go on to make your own detergent. I plan on making a video here shortly on how to do homemade laundry detergent, so stay tuned for that. Next, we're going to talk about hygiene for the body. So we're going to talk about bathing. First, in the old school, just a body of water. Now, I would look for something that is moving water than standing still water. Things like a pond or whatnot is a viable option, but usually your still water is very stagnant. Depending on what the circumstances, everything's going to be a little different and things. Uh, but you're just going to have to kind of judge the water on yourself, make sure it's clear, make sure it doesn't have a smell, things like that. Next, you can either buy or make a camp shower. When all this is, if you have no idea, is basically some sort of container to have some sort of clean water. You're going to hang it from a tree or something a little higher. It's going to either have a nozzle or a hose or something on the end. And you even have the option in a lot of them that you can even warm it up so you can have a little bit of a warmer shower. And then it allows you to kind of have the off grid shower that would feel, at least somewhat normal. Now, if those are not options, then you're going to basically resort to the old school sponge bath. That real quick, you're going to grab some sort of cloth, some sort of a wipe or something along those lines, and you are going to do your best to clean as much as your body as possible with what you have. Now, granted, you're going to have to do at least a little bit of stocking up on some sort of wipes, shampoos, soaps, baby wipes, sponges, rags, things like that in order to get a lot of this stuff done. Now, yes, you can do homemade soaps and homemade shampoos, but also keep in mind of getting things like hand sanitizer, drinking alcohol. You can do rubbing alcohol, but I would well, I guess drinking alcohol is going to have the smell too. But there's a lot of do it yourself stuff that you can do as well. Next is going to be dental. This is going to be one that's a little hard. You can make your own toothbrush. I would, it's one of those ones. It's going to be almost cheaper in the long run to just go out and buy a bunch of toothbrushes. While you can, they sell them at the dollar store for $1, and you can put that on your list. That'd be a great sort of prepping routine that you can get into. Hey, every time I get paid, I'm going to put back at least $5. I'm going to hit some sort of dollar store and I'm going to grab some sort of soap, shampoo, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash, things like that. And you can really stock up a decent amount on things like that. One of the things that you can do if you do not have access to that is good old fashioned baking soda. And even if you can put a pinch of salt in there as a way to, get some of that to help, then that will work. But plain baking soda also works as well. You can also use things like peroxide mixed with water, or things like alcohol, like vodka or whatnot, because that'll go in and kill a lot of the germs. I would not recommend the vodka, but it is better than nothing. Now, keep in mind, I am not anything on a physician or a dental, professional or anything along those lines. I'm giving you ideas. Use whatever at your own discretion. Make sure that you study up and you do all those things. Next, I'm going to spend just a very, very quick second on this. I want to talk about it, but I'm not going to get into depth. Next is going to be feminine products. So, for all the females out there, you're going to either have to stock up or you're going to have to make your own. Uh, Now, granted, if you can stock up, great, because things like tampons and things like that have a ton of different uses. Men, if you are still watching this, go look it up. And we may even do a video on the amount of uses that you can use things like feminine products for all sorts of different things. And also keep in mind, they do have reusable products as well. And, again, you can do it yourself, make home different products. So moving on, we're going to touch on medical real quick. I just want to say that whatever you can stock up on that you cannot make yourself, look into things like herbal and off grid things that you can grow or gather, forage, things like that for yourself. But while you can, if there's something that you take, I'm not going to start mentioning names of different manufacturers or whatnot, but things like sinus or headache or anything along those lines, if you take it, it works. Now's the time to probably grab a little extra if you can. But things that you're going to want is clean water, and I mean clean water ahead of time. You do not want to get into some sort of medical situation and realize that you have to go gather water, filter the water, sanitize the water, all that stuff in order to do whatever medical procedure you're trying to do. So it's best to have a little bit of clean water for any sort of medical situation that may pop up. Things like salt water would be a good idea. Rubbing alcohol, or even a high grade or high proof drinking alcohol. And then last but not least, you're going to want to have clean cloths. Again, it goes right back to the clean water. If you have some sort of a medical incident, you're going to want to have some sort of clean cloths, like gauze, sterile rags, and to sterilize the best you can. We're talking about SHTF, so you're not going to have, a full-on clean, sterilized room, but you're going to have to do the best you possibly can because, again, somebody's life may depend on it. So it's always good that if you can think ahead, prepping, and have some clean cloths stashed away. Next is going to get into a little bit of the probably uncomfortable to talk about, and especially on how we're going to end. So, fair warning to that. Next, we're going to talk about waste, and I'm going to talk about it and the physical trash sort of thing. The first question I want to ask, and I think Pinball did a video recently within the last week or so talking about this, but before you throw it away, is it really trash, or is there something that you can do with it? Can you reuse, recycle, upcycle, whatever? Can you do something with it? Is there some way that you can use that item, repurpose it, use it for something else, use it over again, whatever? And I challenge you, before you throw things away over the next couple of days, week, weekend, whatever, before you throw it away, stop for just 5 seconds to go, what could I do with this? And just get creative. And doesn't mean you have to necessarily do it. It'd be good if you did, it'd give you some practice, but just get those creative juices flowing now. So that way you can do. And the next thing after that is there's some items there's nothing you can do with it. And so it really gives you about two different options. You're either going to bury it or you're going to burn it. Both come with different ones. Burying it's going to burn a lot of calories, but as long as you bury it way away from everything, way away from water sources, way away from all the different things, you're going to burn a lot of calories, but it's gone. Burning it is going to use a heck of a lot less calories, but you're going to provide a lot of smoke and give up OPSEC and different things like that. As well as you don't know what kind of chemical or different things that might come off of that. So be very, very careful if you decide to burn. Now we're going to go a little bit further down the slide and we're going to talk about human waste. Now, depending on what the SHTF situation is, toilets may still flush, so use them. It does not require clean drinking water to flush your toilet. So if you can gather water, fill up your bathtub and use that as your water that you're going to use to flush. Fill up your bathtub, leave a bucket in there, use the restroom, take the lid off the back. You're going to put a gallon or whatever in there and flush. It'll work. Okay. Now, depending, toilets may be backed up and things like that. That's a whole different story that we'll talk about later. But there's other options. So you can use things like chemical toilets, things like porta potties and things like that. There's compost toilets that you can look into, as well as you can just get the old fashioned latrine, where you just go out and dig a hole, kind of like the outhouse sort of thing. Or if all else fails, you can burn it. Just be very, very careful. Again, we just talked about burning things, so just that's a last resort in my opinion, but it's an option. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about, and this is going to be the one that most people are going to find the most uncomfortable, are the ones that they really don't want to talk about, and we're going to talk about corpses. And it's inevitable. If you're talking about a long-term SHTF situation, you're talking about 6 months, a year, 18 months, beyond, things like that. It's an unfortunate thing that people die every day from all sorts of things, whether it's an accident, whether it's nefarious, whether it's old age, illness, whatever. It's going to happen. We're human, and death comes for us all. And so during an SHTF situation, death does not stop. That's actually the whole point of all this, is to try and survive it. And so what do you do when you have a corpse? It's one of your it's one of your neighbors, whatever. Well, it's going to come down to basically two things. Now, there's a bunch of other options, and I'm sure there's going to be a keyboard warrior that's going to give you step by step on how to embalm and maybe mummify and things like that. We're not going to get into that. For the practical reasons, you've got basically two options, and that's going to be you're either going to bury the body or you're going to burn the body. And it goes right into the whole thing. The quick way and the low calorie way is going to be to burn it, but you're going to give off quite a smell. You're going to use up different firewood and other objects. You're going to have a lot of smoke and different things like that, but it'll be gone. Versus burying it, you're going to put out a lot of calories and different things, digging quite a hole, depending, might be the heat of summer. You might be in 90, 100, 110 degree thing. Yeah, I know you can just dig at night sort of thing, but the more that you put off not digging, the more that body is laying there in high heat, which is not a good thing. You're going to have to dispose of the deceased as quickly as possible. You're going to get a whole bunch of unpleasantries. You're going to get smells. You're going to get rodents and bugs and different other things. You're going to get bloating. You can have all sorts of just bad things. Plus, it's just bad morale to look over and see a friend, a loved one, or something like that is no longer with us. So the quicker that you can take care of that is going to be the better. It is. It's one of those uncomfortable truths that, unfortunately, if the situation arises, we're all just going to have to face it. And I just want to go ahead and discuss a little bit of it now. Get it out of the way. Granted, we are the hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So if you're right along with me, you're hoping that day never comes. You never have to deal with that. You've got a plan that if something happens, we know what to do, but you never have to deal with it. But now's a good time. If you plan to bug in, how are you going to do all these things? If you're dealing with a year-long SHTF situation, what are you going to do with your corpses? Are you going to bury them? Where are you going to bury them? Where are you going to build a latrine or an outhouse? Is it close to a water source? Is it going to be close to where you plan on planting your food and your crops? All that stuff. What are you going to do with your trash? Are you going to bury it? Are you going to, do whatever? Start looking around your property, start getting ideas. Where are you going to take a shower? Or do you have a tree outside? Are you going to hang it inside? How are you going to warm the water up? Where are you going to gather the water? Where are you going to store the water? There's a bunch of this that you're going to have to go through this list and start thinking about that stuff now. So that's what I've got for you today. I hope that this helps. I hope it gets the mind working and gets things started. Again, I'm not trying to give you a complete 100% list that you have to 100% go by. I want to get you going and you figure out what works for you. A lot of people probably never even thought of, especially if you're new to prepping. So if you're new here, welcome, especially if you made it this far in the video, because guess what? You rock. I appreciate you so much for spending a little bit of your time with me. And with that, that's all I've got. So I want to say I hope you guys have a great day and a blessed day. And stay tuned because there's definitely more information to come. And with that, I want to say please remember to remain united because we're all prepping in this together.